Well, that's it. We're about to put a button on 2023 and head into 2024. I hope you have some fun things planned for New Year's. I'll let you know what we're going to do when I see you on the other side. Hello, and welcome to this year-end edition of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. I am a knitter and a crocheter, and for the last 5 years, I have been a cyclist and fundraiser for AIDS Lifecycle, a 545-mile, 7-day bike journey from San Francisco to Los Angeles that raises money for the life-saving work of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. How are you? I hope you had a fantastic holiday. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope it was wonderful for you and you got to spend some time with friends and family, or alone if that is how you prefer to celebrate. I think today is the second day of Kwanzaa, so if you celebrate Kwanzaa, happy Kwanzaa to you. And I hope everyone is having a restful and peaceful easing into year end and the beginning of 2024. So just going to walk through kind of some of the stuff that I've been going on. I'm going to talk about knitting intentions for 2024 and some other intentions. I talked about kind of grading myself on 2023 last episode. I can't remember if I ended up as sort of a B minus or B, but I am still working on one of those intentions. I have 4 or 5 days left to get one thing done, which will push me to an A on that particular item. But I'll get to that when we talk about whips and FOs. Just a little bit about what has been going on around here over the past couple weeks. Obviously, we had the holidays. My sister was visiting. I think she had just left our house when I filmed last time, so she was here. We were able to go over and have a couple of meals with my parents and her while she was visiting here before Christmas. So that was a lot of fun, and she got home safely. And then our nieces arrived sometime in the last week or so, and so we were able to have been able to spend some time with them while they are here on their break from university, spending time with their grandparents and their uncles. I have been pretty good about attending my weekly knitting group that I just discovered in the last month or so here locally that happens at one of our local libraries. It's a really fun group. It is really nice to have people to knit with in person. I have our weekly Zoom group that we do for the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So I have that every Tuesday evening, which is a lot of fun, but it is nice to be in the same room with folks. And I've gotten to meet a lot of new local knitters, very different, types of knitting that everyone's doing. So that's kind of interesting to experience as well. So I'm hoping to be able to continue that into the new year. It's nice just to have a couple of hours. It's like in the middle of the day, so it's mainly, folks who either working from home or retired. And can take a couple of hours out on a Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon to knit in the library. But it's a really fun group. So I've been really enjoying that. In terms of our Christmas itself, it was pretty low key and quiet. By design, we had some sad things happen since Thanksgiving. We had to say goodbye to one of our dogs, Kabiria, and put her to sleep. Sorry if I lose it here for a second. And so we knew that we had about a month to prepare, which didn't make it any easier, but we knew that heading into Christmas, and so we purposely planned to keep things quiet and not have any big family gatherings and just spend the time here at the house, the 4 of us, leading up to the day that we had to put her to sleep. we'll move on, move on past that. But yeah, it's been tough. It's been a heartbreaking month for us here in the house. Our the dog who's sitting here next to me on the couch. We are really focused on her and spending time with her and making sure that she's getting all the snuggles that she needs. And that's one of the reasons why I'm filming out here today. Kabiria was a very difficult dog and very vocal dog. And she would never have allowed me to film out here without knocking everything over. So I've taken advantage of the fact that I have the house to myself, except for Julieta, who's here beside me. And I'm filming out here. So we may do more of this going forward. The light's better in this room than it is in the den. So I may do some more of the filming out here. So Christmas was very low key. We basically made a lasagna, and we did have a meal with my in-laws and our nieces, but it was a very quick affair, not extended. And we've just, as I said, kind of been spending very quiet time here at home, which has sort of limited a little bit my mojo in terms of knitting. We haven't been able to do much of anything, but I have done things, but I've just been not as prolific, I guess, or I'm trying to think of the word, but I haven't been as active and making as much progress on my knitting projects as I might have otherwise. There is a lot of things going on. So in under a week, we are going to kick off the winter End Aids Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. That is going to start January 1st, and it is going to run through the 29th of February. I think we have 29 days. I think we have an extra day this year. I should look at the calendar before. There is still time to join us. The patterns I'll talk about in just a second, but you can buy an entry ticket for the Knitalong or Crochetalong on my Ko-fi page. That gives you access to all of the giveaways that will be going on during the event itself. So on the crochet side, we are going to be working on the Dahlias and Honey shawl from Corinne, who is I Knit You Not here over on Instagram. This is YouTube. And here's a photo. We'll do it over here. Let's do a photo of the Honey and Dahlia shawl. So this is kind of a reimagining of this pattern, which she has had out for a while, but she wanted to do it in a speckled version. She has this beautiful sort of mustardy, honey-colored solid version that is part of the Ravelry page, and she wanted to kind of reimagine it in speckles. So we teamed up with Courtney at Apothecary Fiber Co., who dyed up some gorgeous yarns in speckles. So there was a pinky peach color that was called Cosmic Petals, and then there was a kind of a patina-y blue-green, not quite emerald, but kind of like that color that copper gets when it gets a patina, with some purple speckles in it. It was called Druid Grove. So those are the kits. They're no longer available unless you just go check out her website. She may have a handful available that you could pick up now and get them, a couple of weeks probably into the event. There is no time schedule. That's why we do these things for two months. So if you get a late start, no panics whatsoever. And so we'll be working on that. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing for that project here in a bit. On the knitting side, we have a super cool two-color color work hat and mitt set. So it is called the Bascule pattern. It's by MK Nance Makes. And Nance added to this pattern, which had been out for a while, a beanie version. So there's a tam, which was in the original pattern, along with fingerless mitts, and now she has added a beanie pattern. And we teamed up with Sarah from Sea Change Fibers to put together several kits in her Montera sock base, which is a Corriedale nylon, beautiful base. And so she had a dark teal and a natural color, then a black and a blue, and then a pink and a gold. And you can go to her website as well. I'm not sure what she still has available. The pre-order shut down at the beginning of earlier in the month, so we could get things out to everyone for Cast On Day. But again, with all of my Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, while it is helpful if you buy the yarn kits for my fundraising, we try to keep it open to everyone. So if you want to stash dive and pick out two contrasting colors for this pattern, one skein of fingering weight yarn will, each color will get you the mitts and one of the hat choices. So, and I should have mentioned on the shawl that we're doing for the crochet along, it's a 2 fingering weight skein pattern. Definitely want to try to swatch for that because I know on the skeins that we put together from Apothecary Fiber Co., it got pretty close to the end to make the full shawl with the tassels. So you definitely want to gauge swatch for that if you want to make sure that you have enough yarn to finish that up. So those are going to kick off on the 1st. We are going to do a combo. I put out a poll on Instagram on how we wanted to celebrate, whether we wanted to do an Instagram live, whether people wanted to do a YouTube live or do Zoom, and it was roughly tie game between Instagram Live and Zoom. So I thought, why not do both? So the plan is on the 1st, we will do a live on Instagram at about 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern. And we'll run for half an hour, 45 minutes, kind of however long I still have steam without interaction that you get on Zoom. So I'll talk about what I'm working on. Hopefully I will have started one or both of the patterns by there. We can talk about other people's color choices. Maybe one of the dyers or designers will hop on and we can chat as well, which would be kind of cool. I should reach out to them and see if they're around and want to do that. And then about 2:30 or so, I will open up a Zoom, and anyone who wants to can come and hang out and chit chat for an hour and a half or so on Zoom and celebrate the kickoff to the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how everybody is approaching these patterns, the color choices that people are making. That's always the most fun for me. Obviously, a lot of people will be doing them in the yarn kit colors, but I love when I get to see different ideas that people have when they stash dive. So that is one big project. There is also going to be another knit-along for the Knit Stars Pro-Am Design Competition. If you've been following for a while, you know that I was part of that. I teamed up with Lewis from Brooklyn Boy Knits, and we competed against Nina Macklin-Dayton and Melinda Lesko to make designs using this blue yarn from Knit Stars called Loops Luxe Chunky. This is the pattern that Lewis and I put together, or one version of it. This is the Infinity Scarf version. We also did a regular scarf version. And we are going to be hosting a knit-along for all of the patterns, for both sets of patterns, starting on the 3rd. And that is going to run through mid-February. I don't know if I have the exact date. I think it's around Valentine's Day. It may go through the 15th. If I get the exact dates, I'll pop them in the show notes down below. And here's a QR code if you want to scan to get all the show notes if you're watching this not on your computer. All the show notes, everything I mentioned with links to all of the makers and dyers and everything will be down below. So that knit along will run for about 6 weeks. And as part of that, we're going to do a series of Zooms. So if you bought the pattern on the pre-order, if you buy it through the end of the event, it will have information on the specific dates and times. But the plan is, I think we're going to do one on the 3rd, probably late or later than my typical Zoom. So it's probably going to be more like 7:30 East Coast time. So hopefully we'll be able to pick up some Central and Mountain folks who are getting home from work at that point in time. It's still a little early on the East Coast or the West Coast, but that is the cost of living on the West Coast in an East Coast world. And then we're going to do 2 or 3 more. I think kind of midway through, we're going to just chit chat about the patterns, but also do some demos if people want to see them. I should mention that I put up on my YouTube channel, there's a separate playlist that are my demos for the different pieces of Lewis and my patterns. Lewis has a demo on the fringe. I have a demo on demos on the different stitches, grafting in pattern, and grafting close the I-cord edging on my on the Infinity Scarf version. So go check those out. Be gentle. It was my first time making demo videos, and so it is, as I was saying to the folks on the Zoom call yesterday, it's not quite very Pink Knits quality of demos, but hopefully over time, if I have the opportunity to do more demos, they will get better and better. But I think they're pretty clear in terms of the ultimate goal of getting you through the process. So go check those out. There will be links to all of those in the patterns when they come out. Today's filming this on Wednesday the 27th. The pattern is supposed to be out today or delivered, the PDF delivered today via email. I haven't gotten mine yet from KnitStars. If I haven't gotten it, I will I'm going to shoot off an email and check and see where things are. But they should be coming out today. If you haven't bought the pattern, you can follow the link down below in the show notes to get access. It's a pretty good deal. I think you get both versions of Lewis and my pattern and Nina and Melinda's shawl pattern, which I'll post a picture of here, and for $12. And in addition to that, if you get the order during the pre-order period, if you get the pattern during the pre-order period, I am working on a hat design that incorporates some of the patterns from our scarf, and you'll get a free copy of that. Eventually, after the Knitalongs are over for this event, the patterns are going to revert to the designers, and I will put that hat out as a separate standalone pattern. I should have mentioned that all of this KnitStars Pro-Am Design Competition is a fundraiser for my AIDS Lifecycle fundraising. So $12 for the 2 sets of patterns, 100% of that is going directly to AIDS Lifecycle, and the yarn, which is on 25% off on Loops Love, the Loops Luxe Chunky, so it's alpaca and silk, and it's 25% off, so I think it's $11.25 a skein, and 20% of all of the yarn sales are also generously being donated by Shelley and the KnitStars team to my AIDS Lifecycle fundraising through the end of the event. So if you have not had a chance to pick up the pattern and the yarn, I would greatly appreciate it if you did. So that is coming up. And then finally, we have the next Destash for Good auction. Submissions are going to be opening January 12th. I'm only going to keep them open for 5 days, so they're going to close down on the 17th. If you follow me over on Instagram, you saw that I have been experimenting and helping out a few of my dyer friends with some of their excess inventory, and as a result, they are helping me out with stocking the next couple of Destash auctions. So I posted a picture. I have 3 one of the big plastic tubs that look like big ice chests, full of yarn for this next Destash. So it's probably going to be the biggest Destash that we've ever done. I still think I have to keep it to probably around 400 listings. So I'm going to start processing mine and see where we are. But I'm going to open it up for 5 days for folks to get their listings in, and then we're going to kick off that actual auction on the 27th of January, and it'll go through the 6th of February. So things are going to move pretty quickly because I'm going to try to get as many auctions done before my bike ride in June because they are terrific fundraisers for me. And now I need to get rid of all this yarn that has come in from these dyers. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think it's going to be a great one. There are some really gorgeous yarn that I've gotten my hands on for the next couple of auctions. So that is coming up. That's a lot to kick off the year. I feel like it's going to be a whirlwind up until my ride in June, just trying to get to my fundraising goal, which I'll talk about a bit in my my intentions. So that's it in terms of kind of events and upcoming things. A little bit on the knitting side, as I said, because of just what has been going on here. I haven't had a lot of motivation to really focus on plowing through and getting projects done. I've done a little bit of knitting here and there, but I found that a couple rows on an actual pattern, and I get distracted and move on to puttering around here, just trying to keep myself occupied. Grief is it's a weird thing. It comes and goes in waves, and demotivates you in ways that you don't really expect, and then in other times, things seem relatively normal. So I have one FO. It is something that I was working on last time. This is a hat called A Quest for Curds, and I forgot to write down the designer's name, but it'll be posted here below. This was done in Knit Picks. What's this called? It's Chunky Weight, and it's one of their color changing yarns. The name is escaping me at the moment, but it's also been shown to you down below. And it was a really fun pattern. I love the way the texture, these sort of slip stitch ridges really get pronounced, and with the kind of garter valleys in there. This will be a Knit Picks. Oh my gosh, I keep saying Knit Picks. It's Knit Picks yarn. This will be going into my final set of Knit the Rainbow donations for this year. But a really fun pattern, A Quest for Curds. Definitely going to go into my rotation for charity hat knitting. So that was fun. FOs, that is it. Whips, I didn't make any real progress on my Geo Gradient MCal Stephen West. Knit a little bit on it, but not enough to really show. I'm still in the first part of Clue through the first side of Clue 3, doing those slip stitch kind of satin stitchy patterns. What I have spent more time on, and I mentioned earlier, is hopefully going to get me over the finish line for one of my intentions for 2023, are my Embracing Our Nature socks. Sorry for all the tangling, but that's what you get when you do 2 at a time on 2 sets of needles. I'm through the heels and heel flaps, and into the straightaway for finishing these up. There's a marker for how far I've gone since the heel flap. I'm loving this pattern. I finally now gotten to the point where the cabling pattern, not quite memorized because it's 12 different rows, but once I know what row I'm on, I get in the rhythm and go. I love how it's working up on speckled yarn. I know some people don't really like cables on variegated, but I think it looks great. And this is Caitlin from Porter Wool Co. It is her Petal Party Remix colorway. And this is the first time I've said before, this is the first time I've ever done toe-up socks. Did not love the fiddliness of that cast-on, but finally got it. And I don't know if this is, and sock knitters chime in down below in the comments, I don't know if this is just how things go with the heel construction generally with toe-up socks, or if it was specific to this. If there was something that Beatrice from Samba Knits did in this heel pattern, but haven't done a ton of socks, but every time I've done socks, I end up with that situation where there's gapping, there's holes at the turn when you're switching directions, and for whatever reason, these do not have it. I mean, these heels turned out so great in my view, but there's none of that. Like, I'm not going to have to go back and tighten things up at all in there, I don't think. So it's a German short rows for the actual heel part, and then there wasn't anything in it that seemed like really unusual relative to what I've done before going the opposite direction. but just maybe it was her instructions, or maybe it's this 2 at a time technique. I don't know, but these have turned out to be the best looking heels that I've ever worked on a pair of socks. So I'm just in the round and round and round doing the pattern in the front until I get to the cuffs. And one question that came up on the Zoom call this week, and I will pose it to all of you as well. If you are a sock knitter, especially if you've done a lot of toe-up socks, how much yarn do you need weight-wise to do a decent-sized cuff? Probably I'd like a 2-inch cuff. But I'm doing, I have the two balls. I don't want to have any yarn left at the end, or as minimal amount of yarn left as possible. I also kind of like a longer leg on my sock, and so I'm wondering like how many grams of yarn I should knit to until I then start the ribbing. My thought is, oftentimes you get a mini, like a 20-gram mini, that I think you're supposed to be able to do heels and toes and cuff, or maybe just heels and cuff, or toes and cuff. So somewhere between 5 and 10 is what seemed right to me. Someone on the Zoom call suggested 7. I'm not really concerned, I guess, if I have too much ribbing. I don't know that it may look weird, but I don't think it would bother me in terms of like the fit. And I'm not even sure these socks are going to fit. I just picked the medium size and hope for the best. But if you have thoughts on how much yarn I should leave gram-wise per ball to get a roughly 2-inch cuff and leave me with very little yarn at the end, let me know down below. I will try to keep notes, so as I become a better sock knitter and a more prolific sock knitter, I kind of know what I'm dealing with. But this is the first time I'm going in this direction, so I don't really know how much is in the cuff. So that is the main thing that I have been knitting on. As I said, because I haven't been able to focus too much on specific patterns, I've also just played around with swatching. If you saw my last episode, I grabbed some random self-striping yarn and was just playing with like slip stitch patterns, not really having a goal in mind, just kind of seeing how that worked with that yarn. Not a specific sort of pattern or design or anything, just sort of like trying to figure out different things that I could do with that yarn. So I continued on that. I had a partial ball of Always Be Kind yarn, a large yarn from sock Knitalong that we did. Maybe it was the first year, the first Pride. I feel like maybe it was the first Pride Knitalong, because I took the socks with me on the AIDS Lifecycle and tried to knit while I was not on the bike, but like on the ride, to very little success. But I had some left from that project, and so I just grabbed it and some random natural yarn and started playing again with different stitch patterns, bringing in the second yarn and sort of playing with that, switching between the natural yarn and the colored yarn in terms of which was color A and which was color B, playing with some different patterns. Again, no particular goal, just trying to see how different patterns worked up in a self-striping yarn, and maybe someday down the road it'll turn into something, but it just gave me something to kind of focus on and occupy my time that wasn't, I feel like I needed to, if I made mistakes or whatever, it wasn't going to require me going back and frogging or knitting backwards or whatever. So just sitting around here playing with yarn with no particular goal in mind. The other thing that I did have to do, I guess this is a reverse FO. If you were on the Knit Stars Zoom when we revealed our patterns, I showed off the hat pattern that I had been working on, which is this, but I had crown decreased it and all but woven in the ends essentially. And then I realized as I went to start to write the pattern down that I had not written down what I had done for the crown decreases. And given everything that was going on, just looking at it, I didn't feel like I could piece it back together. So I ripped out the crown decreases and got back to where those are supposed to begin. And I'm going to give it another shot and see, and write down what I actually, I think I kind of remembered, but I was just like, I need to actually get it right if I'm going to put this out as a pattern. And then the next step is going to be trying to make it a size bigger and a size smaller and see if there's anything I need to change in terms of specifically the crown decreases as well. So hopefully between now and New Year's, I will at least get this one done and start working on the sizing for the different patterns, so that very shortly after the Knitalongs begin for the Knit Stars Pro-Am, the hat pattern will be able to be sent out to all those folks who ordered it during the pre-order. But other than that, that is about all I have that I've been actively working on. I did wind up yarn for all of the Knitalong and Crochetalong projects. So I bought some of this Knit Stars Loops Luxe Chunky. It came in a couple of different colors. I bought the natural color, and I'm going to be using that to make Nina and Melinda's shawl. So that is all balled up and ready to go. I think that's going to be a pretty fast project, even though it takes 6 skeins of the yarn. It's a chunky weight that knits up like an Aran, so I feel like it's going to be a pretty fast project. But I also wound up yarn for my and Aids Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So on the knitting side, I bought 2 sets, but I ultimately decided to go with the colors that Nance had shown on the pattern page for the bascule. This is the Au Natural colorway from Sea Change Fibers, and then this one is called, I always forget, Stormy Seas. Yes, Stormy Seas is this really, here, I mean, in this light it's showing up as almost more navy, but it's this very tonal, very dark teal, and the tonality is not really coming out, and it's looking a little more navy here, but guess you can see relative to my sweater, which is really navy, that there is a little more green in there. But it's a really beautiful color, and I just decided that I was going to do that versus the pink and the gold, which is the other colorway that I bought. And I'm going to make the tam. I'm going to make the tam and the mitts. I don't know if I'm a tam wearer, but we'll find out after the fact. If I make the tam and the mitts and a tam is not a good look for me, I will make that a future donation for Knit the Rainbow, or maybe my sister can pull off a tam, or maybe I'll just find someone who can pull off it. Maybe my sister-in-law can pull off a tam. But I'm really looking forward to doing another colorwork project. I had so much fun, as I mentioned before, with the cowl that we did in the fall knit-along. And one of the things that came out of that experience, my first real colorwork project, and the little hat that I did for the SoCal Fiber Fair, was that the tension in the colorwork sections got a little tight. So while I was at SoCal Fiber Fair, actually, and Sarah from Sea Change Fibers were there, and we did our live and everything from the event, she gifted me. She said, I saw you talking about the tension on the colorwork, and she said, I found this to be incredibly helpful on dealing with that. So she gifted me this Norwegian knitting thimble. I haven't tried it out yet, but you can see, if you've not ever seen one of these before, you can see how it works. That you basically, rather than holding, which is what I've been doing, rather than holding the 2 different yarns in 2 different fingers on each hand, you do it all on one finger, and then just kind of, I guess, tilt it back and forth to catch the yarns. So I'm going to play around with this and on the bascule and see how that works. I will obviously report back, but I'm looking forward to testing that out. If you've used one of these below and have any tip, or if you've used one of these before and have any tips for using one, again, just drop a comment down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear about different tips and techniques for this. So that is what I'm going to be doing for the bascule. On the Dahlias and Honey, I wound up my yarn. I'm not using the Apothecary Fiber Co. One of my knitting buddies, Lynn, who was part of our Rhinebeck house, did a sample of the Dahlias and Honey shawl in the Apothecary Fiber Co., sent it to me, and then when I was going to send it back, she's like, no, just keep it. I think the color looks great on you, more so than on me, and so she is generously letting me keep that shawl. And that would probably be the color that I had worked it up in, because it's the blues and the greens and not the peach and pink. I don't think that's my color, although I could be wrong. And so what I decided to do was I was going to do it in a stash yarn, because I'm trying to work from stash yarn as much as I can. So this is what I have. I've wound up 2 balls of it. This is Lola Bean Yarn Co. One of her black label colors, which are surprise colorways that she bases on music. This one was based on Prince. It was called The Chosen One, Prince of the Revolution, The Chosen One. It is a merino silk base. So let me see exactly. It is 70-30, so 70% superwash merino, 30% silk, fingering weight, 438 yards per 100 grams. It's really slippery. Had a little bit of I did swatch, so I did my gauge swatch yesterday. I needed to go down a size. I think the pattern calls for a G hook. I went down to an F and got pretty much straight on the gauge. This yarn actually has, I think, a little bit more yardage per 100 grams than the Apothecary Fiber Co. base, and so I'm a little less worried about running out. But based on my experience with the Crochetalong in the fall, I know that I am a looser crocheter, and so I didn't want to run out. So I did do a gauge swatch yesterday, got that figured out, so it'll be done on an F hook, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I think it's going to be a gift. Well, the plan is for it to be a gift for my mom. She made some comment when she was here over Thanksgiving she was cold, and I said, if only you knew someone who could make you a shawl. So she has nothing that I have made for her, so I thought that would be nice to do something this spring. She's also probably going to get the shawl from Nina and Melinda, but this is going to the purple one will be more of a lightweight shawl, and spring and summer for her, and then the other one could be a little heavier winter shawl. So that's it in terms of things that are coming up on the needle. Oh, the other thing that I am going to be doing is, I'm going to talk about that in my intentions, actually. So I'm planning to start another hat. It'll probably be, it may be a hat for me, but it may be a charity hat, but I'm going to talk about that in intentions in a minute. And why don't we just go there? So each year, I like to, make a few little intentions. It's nothing that is written in stone, so I'm not going to beat myself up, especially right now. I'm not going to beat myself up about not hitting them all 100%. But I do like to have at least a little kind of roadmap for the year. This year is going to be tough, frankly, because so much of my energy is being focused on closing out this fundraising goal of mine to hit $200,000 for AIDS Lifecycle, and wrap up my kind of AIDS Lifecycle career, at least for the time being. So that is my big intention for this year, and it does involve knitting, is to hit that $60,000 fundraising goal for AIDS Lifecycle. So a lot of my energy is being put into the Knitalongs, the Crochetalongs, the Destash for Goods auctions, a couple of secret projects that I have coming up that I haven't been able to talk about, and just other fundraising. So I don't know that it's going to leave a ton of time, at least until end of June or July, for me to kind of knit on things that are not related to that. But we'll see. Hopefully I can carve out a little bit here and there. Some of these projects are relatively quick, so hopefully I can get them back down and maybe have a longer term project that I'm working on as well. One of those is going to hopefully be this Kurdock blanket that I've been talking about forever. It feels like it is a much delayed housewarming gift for a friend of mine. It's going to be the most challenging project that I've probably ever worked on. It's a picture of it here. It is a beautiful cabled throw designed by Carol Feller. And it is going to, it's going to be a challenge. I think there's like 10 charts, and they're all of varying lengths. So it's going to be just a logistical challenge for me. I doubt that there's anything technically in there that's super difficult. I've done plenty of cabling in my life, so I think that that's going to be fine. And there's no sizing, so that's not an issue. I think it's just going to be managing all those different charts. And actually, I should have mentioned this up front when I was talking about the Bascule hat and mitt, the colorwork pattern. I'm going to use that as a first test or try for using Knit Companion. So I've looked at the Knit Companion app. I've never actually used it. I tend to be a print things out on paper and make a lot of marks on it with a pencil to sort of mark off where I am, or use little stitch counters. Manual, analog ways of managing my patterns, but someone in my Zoom group and someone in my local knitting group have raved about Knit Companion, and especially for doing multiple charts. So in anticipation of starting the Kurdock blanket this year and all of those charts, I thought it might be a way to test Knit Companion using a simpler pattern with the colorwork and just see how it goes. So if you're a Knit Companion user, I'm asking for a lot of advice in the comments this week, but if you're a Knit Companion user and you have any tips or tricks on that, drop them down below. The other thing I thought about, I know Kevin and Ray at Needles on the Ready, they use an app, Good Notes, I think it is called, Good Notes, where they do all of their sort of note taking and things like that. And that may be another option for me as well. We'll just see. It seems like just one more thing, just to always have to have your device with you to while you're knitting to keep track of things. But the blanket is not going to be a travel project, so it's always going to be probably residing here in the house. Maybe I would take it to the library just to show it off more than anything, because I don't know how. Maybe once I get all the cable patterns kind of in my mind, but in the beginning days, it's probably not going to be anything that I take anywhere with me. So I would have my device and access to electricity and Wi-Fi and all that stuff here. So, but if you're a Knit Companion user and love it, or if you have used Knit Companion and hated it, let me know down in the comments below, because I'd love to kind of hear the pros and cons of that. So the Kurdock blanket is the sort of second intention. The other bigger project that I would like to work on this year is my second sweater. So I knit my Painting Honeycombs sweater for Rhinebeck this year, and I have another sweater quantity of yarn, also navy, surprise, and I want to do just a basic cardigan. I have this book by Amy Herzog. Can't remember the name, but I'll pop it up here, and it kind of goes through all different sweater designs, so raglan and set-in sleeves and drop sleeves and all, drop shoulder or whatever it's called, all of that stuff, and then gives you kind of recipes and charts, or if you want to do it, if this is your gauge, this is the yarn weight, this is sort of the basic recipe for it. So I just want to do a basic I think it's a drop shoulder cardigan is the one I picked out. Maybe it's a raglan, I don't know. But just a basic blue cardigan, and work on that as my second sweater. I really enjoyed the process the first time around, so hopefully that'll be another kind of straightforward thing once I get. It's not going to be complicated on the design is going to be just stockinette stitch. So in terms of other projects, again, last year I set a goal of knitting 15 items for charity. I think I probably surpassed that by 3 or 4. So, or probably more than that, probably closer to 10. So I'm setting it for 20 this year. Most of those will probably be hats. I know Knit the Rainbow will get a large chunk of those. Sunny at Noodly Knits, if she does her hat drive again next year, which I'm assuming she'll do, she'll get some of those as well. And then through this YouTube channel where every week or every couple weeks I try to give ideas for using your crafting to do some good, have come across a lot of different hat drives and scarf drives and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to spread the joy around by donating things to different charities along the way. And I've got a ton of yarn pulled out already, lots of worsted and chunky weights of fast projects. So I should be able to get that done. In terms of hats, one of the things that I would like to try and hopefully succeed at and hopefully continue to do is to knit while I walk. I got this little device from Lemonwood when I was at Rhinebeck. I think they were at Indie Untangled. I think that's where I got that. And it's a little spindle that you put your cake of yarn on, work from the outside, and hold it on your wrist. And you can, I've seen people hang it from their rear view mirror when they're knitting in the car, at child pickup or whatever. But my hope is that I can probably always have a hat going, charity hat that's a very simple, straightforward project, and do this when I go out for walks a couple days a week with the dog. Julieta takes a 3-mile walk almost every single day with my husband. I have not been joining them because Kabiri wasn't able to take that walk. She could, walk to the end of the street or so, and she enjoyed doing that. But she was not going to make it on a 3-mile walk. So she and I would come back, and my husband and Julieta would go out and have a nice walk. So I'm hoping that on the days that I'm not training either on the bike or at Orange Theory, that I will join them for a leisurely walk around the neighborhood, and I can take some knitting with me and knit and walk and enjoy spending time with the two of them, which is something that I've not been able to do since the other dog wasn't able to do that. So that is the other intention, is to make some of that charity knitting, walking knitting, and I'm sure that it will create some conversation. There's a whole walking community here, and I'm sure I will get a lot of questions about what I'm doing, and maybe I'll meet some other knitters that way. That would be really fun. And then some other things. I have, as I mentioned before, a lot of my stash, I don't count as stash because I've kitted it up into little Ziploc bags with a pattern name and the yarn that I plan to use. And there are dozens, I'll leave it at dozens, I won't say how many dozens of those kits in a separate location that doesn't count as stash. And I do want to be knitting more from my stash, and my overall intention is always to end up with less yarn in the house than I had started the year before. Accomplish that this year, hoping to do that again next year. And as part of that, I would like to knit at least two of my kits. One of which is hopefully going to be the Sunwalker from Melanie Berg. I talked about that earlier this fall. I had hoped that was going to get started this year, and it just because this Pro-Am competition came up kind of out of the blue very suddenly, and then had a time deadline to it that required me to learn a lot of new things. That was just a project that kind of fell off the table, and things are going to happen, I know, along the way, and so maybe half of these intentions won't get done, but that is one that I would definitely like to do. I have my yarn all picked out. Is going to be Treehouse Knits Most Metal Ever, navy blue, tweedy, silver tweed in there. It's the tweed. I think it's the tweed sock base. It's going to make a stunning shawl, and it's going to be one that I use all the time. So I would really like to get that done. And I don't know what the second kit is going to be. Most of the things in there are shawls, so probably will be a shawl kit of some sort. But I would like to start working through some of those because I've always been very excited when I've made the kits up, and I would like to dig into those. Mentioned hats a lot, so hats for charity, hats knitting while I'm walking. I would like to design a hat. I mean, this one that I did, I guess it's a pretty basic hat. I did have to, tweak the pattern a little bit from what we did with the scarf. So I guess it does count, but I would like to take it a little bit a step further. So to that end, I am taking a hat design class in the spring with Nina Macklin-Dayton, who was my competition in the Knit Stars Pro-Am competition, but she teaches a ton. I've enjoyed, one of her hats that I've made is one of my favorite hats, is the Runcible hat. And I also enjoyed her masterclass on Knit Stars, where she went through like 18 or 19 different little techniques to make a cowl. Just different colorwork techniques and textures and different things. So I'm really looking forward to taking the class with her. We've built a rapport throughout this through this competition process, and she's a lovely woman. I'm looking forward to that class. So hopefully, as part of that, I will be able to come up with a hat design that we can talk about, later this year, and maybe I'll publish it on Ravelry or something. The other thing that I want to make, this is so silly. We, in the wintertime here, even though it doesn't get that cold, I like to drink hot tea. We have a little teapot, but it is a glass teapot, and it just doesn't keep things warm for very long, even though I think it's supposed to be insulated. But, it makes like 3 or 4 cups of tea, and by the time I'm back for the second cup, it's already like lukewarm. I have to heat it up in the microwave. So I want to make a tea cozy. I've made one before years ago for a friend, a tea drinker friend of ours. And I haven't really looked into designs or anything like that, because I think that's probably going to be a post-summer thing. But if you're a tea cozy maker and you have a pattern that you love, let me know down below. But I want to make a tea cozy by next winter, so you have something to keep my teapot warm. And then the other thing on the knitting side, the last one on the knitting side, is socks. It was one of my intentions this year to become a more prolific sock knitter, to knit 3 pairs of socks. Fingers crossed, I'll get these done in the next 4 or 5 days. What I did not accomplish, which was one part of that intention, was to figure out my recipe for a vanilla sock that I could just go to every single time and knit and have a sock that fit me and I like the fabric of. So that is the goal. I want to knit 4 pair of socks this year, 3 of those to be vanilla, and finally get that recipe down. I think we're honing in on it because I think, as I mentioned before, I think a size 1 needle gives me a fabric that I like, a dense enough fabric. We just need to figure out stitch counts, and then it may be toe up, because I've enjoyed, once I've gotten over the cast on, this heel may have sold me if that has something to do with being toe up, which I don't really understand why it would, but if not, maybe that's just the heel that I need to always use because it turned out so great. So 4 pairs of socks, 3 of which will be vanilla, and like nail down a recipe so I can always, if I'm going on a trip or whatever, just have a pair of socks constant with me. And maybe at some point, if I do get that can be also some of my walking knitting, because I've seen, I know Laura from Always Be Kind Yarn, who I got to meet in person at Flock. Like, she was standing in line and walking around Flock and had like a little bag and was just always knitting on round and round and round on a pair of socks. So that could be a really good use for that, the walking knitting as well. And then finally, on the non-knitting side of things, books. Last year I did not succeed in reading as much as I would like. I had set a goal for 10 books. I think I probably got 7, and I wanted 3 of them to be from my shelf of classics, which is in the den. And I think I only got 1 done. I started 2 more, which I think are among them. Les Mis for sure, and then Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I started listening to and reading at the same time when I was training this past summer in anticipation of our trip to Ireland. And it was really a great audiobook too. It was read by Colin Farrell, but I just found it because of the kind of stream of consciousness of it. I found it difficult to listen to while I was riding the bike. It wasn't keeping my attention the way that I need a book to when I'm riding the bike. So my goal this year is to finish those two. So finish Les Miserables and Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, either reading or listening to those, and then start 7 new books. One of which will come from the classic shelf. I probably should go through and look at which ones are the shortest, because that may make that intention easier to keep up. And then finally, one that I didn't really have anything for last year, but I really noticed at the end of the year was something that was missing, is music. I have historically been an avid discoverer of new music and listening to new music, and for whatever reason this year, I don't think I probably bought or added to my library or discovered anything particularly new to me. I mean, usually from our Hollywood Bowl concerts, which are put on by the local NPR station, something new comes out of that. I think the only thing that was new to me this year from that was Portugal the Man, and although I actually enjoyed the music when I listened to it in person, it was one of the worst concerts I've ever been to, I think. Or maybe I was just in a bad mood. I don't know, but they had zero stage presence in my view. Anyway, sidebar. So I just want to be a little more conscious and trying to find some new music this year and discover new music and get back into something that was always so sort of central to my personality. And this, I think, between not having a daily commute anymore, which gave me a lot of time to listen to both podcasts and music, having a dog that did not like noises and did not like particularly having music on in the house, just and streaming. I think that's probably the other piece of it, is that so much has gone to streaming and just doesn't lend itself as much, I think, in my experience, to sort of discovering new things, especially albums. So a couple things I'm going to do to listen to some music podcasts and things like that to try to sort of stay abreast of what's new and what's out there. So those are basically it for my intentions this year. Some knitting, some not, some extensions of last year's intentions, some new things. But as I said, I'm going to try to be particularly gentle with myself this year, because there's a lot going on, especially in the first half of the year, that is going to require some flexibility in terms of how much knitting I'm actually going to be able to get done. I'm going to always start every single End Aids Knitalong and Crochetalong project, and I think that eventually I will finish them, but I'm not going to put any time constraints on me. Last thing I want to talk about was just some acquisitions. Not much this year, but it was not this time, but it was Christmas, and not surprisingly, the people in my life tend to focus their gift giving to me on things that are knitting related. My husband and I knew that gift giving was not going to be something that happened for us this year, so we did not exchange gifts this year. But I'm sure it would have been yarn related if he got me. But and I don't have it. Oh, I have it over there, but I can't reach it right now. But my sister-in-law and brother-in-law gave me a wonderful. I'll just reach and grab it. Hold on. And create a noise. Stitch Bible. So this 750 knitting stitches, which is funny because I had actually checked this book out of the library during the early days of the Pro-Am design competition when Lewis and I were first getting started. I checked out every knit stitch dictionary that our local library had, and actually it's where I found it's not in this one, but the Prosperity Ribs pattern that we modified for our scarf. So This is going to become super helpful if this design thing goes anywhere for me. And then my mom and dad gave me, which was actually something that I had been asking for, the Lumos knitting lights, which I tested out for the first time last night. We hadn't really been in a mood to watch anything over the last few days, but last night we finally decided to dip our toes back into watching something. We watched the 2 episodes of the Crown, and I was able to use these, dim the lights a little bit, and then use these, and they work great. So it's taken a little bit of time to figure out exactly what the adjustment is and kind of where, based on where I hold things. But I think this is going to be fantastic for watching movies and knitting, or knitting in the car now that it's wintertime and it gets dark at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if we go downtown for a show, I can knit in the car while we're driving. And then my sister, who was visiting, as I mentioned, brought me some yarn for the holidays. So this one is Rising Tide Fiber Co., which I think is a local to her dyer in the Maryland area, and this was a set called the Just Peachy Pumpkin Set. So it looks like a 10, a 20, a 50, and 100 in 75-25 sock set. So maybe socks. I don't have any like solid socks. Maybe I'll hold off on these, and if I do a pattern sock as one of my 4, I'll do these for the for those. This orange it's like a 50 gram. I'm not sure what I would do with these, do with that, because I think I could do the socks and the heels and the toes with the other ones, but we'll think about that. And then the other 2 she got me were both from Destination Yarn. I think she got these at her local yarn store, which is Lovely Yarns in Baltimore. And, she knows me, so they're blue. And one of the solid is called Wild Blue, and the variegated, which goes from navy through sort of a tealy blue into this white with there's some gold speckles in there, is called The Stars at Night. So I think those are fantastic, and I'm thinking shawl or cowl probably with these. I'll have to do some thinking and put those into a kit. So that's it for the acquisition side. It's been quiet, and I think it's probably going to be quiet for a while because I'm not going to be shopping. I'm going to be getting everything ready for this Destash sale. So just to wrap up, as I always do, with some Craftivism ideas and a question, because if you've made it this far, you probably listen to the Craftivism section. One that I had maybe in the new year is to move Craftivism to the front, where I talk about my Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, and maybe just throw in the 2 Craftivism or 2 or 3 things that we come up with every couple weeks up at the front of the thing. So if you made it this far and you have a thought on that, drop that down below as well. But the 2 things I have this week, I mentioned Melanie Berg earlier because I'm wanting to make her Sunwalker shawl, but each year she puts together a program called Knitters Against Malaria that runs sort of from the holidays through the end of January, and they raise money for the Against Malaria Foundation, which provides insecticide-treated nets to folks in malaria zones to try to prevent the spread of malaria. And they've done an amazing job since 2019. They've raised $142,000. They raised $20,000 this year. I just checked this morning, and they're already up to $18,000 so far this year. So it should be pretty easy for us to help them get past last year's goal. This is an incredibly effective way to stop the spread of malaria, which is a disease that kills tons of people every single year, but is relatively easy to combat with these nets. So every $2 or $3 can buy a net for that will protect 2 people around their bed when they sleep at night, and those nets last for 3 or 4 years. So it's a relatively low cost item that can then provide protection for a relatively long period of time in a pretty easy way. So Melanie Berg is at Maryland, so Mair, I'll put this down below, Lynd, on Instagram. And I will also put the link down below to the donation page for Knitters Against Malaria. I think it runs only through the 31st of January. So let's help them try to get past their $20,000 goal. The other one that I wanted to mention, and this is more of a year-long thing, but it just popped into my feed this week. A dyer named Amanda, but she goes by Mandy's Making, Mandy's Makings on Instagram. Here's the link. She has a monthly yarn club that she uses to raise funds against human trafficking. So each month, in 2024, she is going to choose a different organization that is working somewhere in the fight against human trafficking, and she is going to make $1 per skein of that month's club color, a donation to that organization. So, and each month's color is going to be based on the logo or something about the organization that she's raising funds for. So each month of the club, so I think it starts on the first of every month, and this is going to be like a 5-day pre-order for that club color, and then $1 from every one of those skeins is going to be donated to one of these organizations. So I'll put the link down below to her Etsy shop. But it's Mandy's Makings on Instagram. So go check that out. That's a fantastic cause and a great way to, have a fun color of the month club, but also be doing some good with it. So that is it. Thank you for taking some time at the end of your year to spend it with me. I hope you have a safe and happy New Year's Eve. If you're celebrating, we got invited to our neighbor's house. We told them, we are usually in bed by like 9:30 or 10, but if it's going to start earlier, we'll come by and have a drink, and we're going to go over and spend some time with their family, so that's lovely. And I hope you have a safe New Year's Eve. Spend it with friends and family, if that is what you like, or solo watching New Year's Rockin' Eve on TV, if that is more your style. And here's best wishes for a wonderful 2024 with lots of yarn in your future. Thanks so much. I'll see you in a couple weeks.